Hey guys, this is the introduction to our Hydroponics 101 video series. I wanted to set the expectation that these videos are very low production value, low budget, and I'm trying to fit it in between a full-time job, my household responsibilities, and of course my garden. I hope that these videos will inspire you to become a modern farmer. Hi everyone, it's a beautiful day here in Snohomish, Washington today, and I am outside filming this video on our deck. So if you hear background noise, birds, family members doing yard work or screaming at each other or dogs barking, my apologies, but that's going to be our background music for today. So in this video, I am going to show you how I start the seeds that I use for my hydroponic garden. So obviously, whether you're doing hydroponic gardening or soil-based gardening, you need to start with your plants. And typically for me, I start my plants from seeds. Or for you too, if you're close to a nursery and you're in a hurry and your nursery sells seedlings, you can also start your garden that way. But today, I'm just gonna show you this recycled tin foil containers from takeout. And I filled it with my growing medium, which is just cocoa coir. See that? And I think in the Philippines, you can get a lot of those cocoa coir. And I moisten it a little bit with water so that it's not dry. And what we're going to do today is I'm going to start the seeds for 3 kinds of plants. So let me adjust the video so you can see what I'm doing. So on this side, we are going to start some arugula. And on this side here in the middle, we're going to start cilantro. And on this side, we're going to start lettuce, and then we will come back in a couple of days or 3 days to see which ones germinated faster. So let me just moisten it again with water. We have the seeds. Let's moisten it again with water. So just spray just plain water to moisten it. And then the last step is for me to cover it with just a little bit of more cocoa coir, because plants need darkness to germinate. I mean, most seeds anyway, they need darkness to germinate. So I have a bucket here of cocoa coir. So that's a bucket of cocoa coir. So just sprinkle it just a little bit to cover it, so they will have the darkness that they need for germination. There's more of your background noise. Cilantro is the middle, so I've got the label. Cilantro, and then we've got arugula, and then we've got the lettuce. And just like a cooking show, I also have some pre-baked or pre-germinated plants here that we're going to use for props when I show you how to transplant the seedlings into the growing medium and the nutrient solution when you're growing plants hydroponically, because we obviously don't want to wait 3 days to film the next part of this video. So I thought I'd use these. Now, granted that these are seeds that I started 4 weeks ago, and I had gotten so busy, I also have a full-time job, that I haven't had the chance to transplant them. So these are way past the time they should have been transplanted. They're not very happy, but they will bounce back. But there are still some small seedlings here that I think would be good props for this part of the video. So, but before we start transplanting them, let me just gather some stuff that you would need when you're growing things hydroponically. You can spend a lot of money, you know, just buying all kinds of equipment to get started with hydroponics, or you can also just look around your house and even look for free stuff online and see if they would be a good use for hydroponic gardening. So for example, we need a container that would hold the nutrient. This is a container that was that had ghee, and it's now empty. So I just cleaned it, washed it really well, and I'm going to show you how to use this as a container for hydroponic gardening. You can also use things like mason jars, and these are mason jars for pickles. And what I did is I cleaned it really well, and then I covered it with tin foil. The tin foil is to block the light, so that the light doesn't get through the nutrients, because when the light gets through the nutrients, then algae will form, and the algae will compete with your plants in trying to eat the nutrients. So you want to make sure that your containers are opaque. It doesn't have to be tin foil, it could be newspaper. Just know that it's gonna get wet. So anything, or black plastic, something that will prevent light from getting into the nutrient solution inside the container will work. And then these containers, this is where we're gonna put the nutrients that the plant is going to use to eat for the plants to grow. Now the plants themselves need to go into some kind of a container that would hold it. So you can buy net pots like this. These are designed really for hydroponic gardening, so it's quite inexpensive here in the US. But if you don't have access to net pots like this, and they come in different sizes, these are 3-inch wide net pots, which fits perfectly in on top of a mason jar, so it's great. But if you don't have that, then what you can do is use styrofoam cups like this. So just make sure that whatever material you're using, that they are food safe, right? Because you're growing food that you're going to be eating. These are styrofoam cups that I got from the dollar store that also fits perfectly inside the mason jar. But what we need to do is we just need to replicate the holes that's in the net cup, because obviously you want the roots to go through the holes so that they can eat the nutrients. So what I have to do, so let me move these plants first. I have this soldering kit, and this is hot, so be very careful. You can use blade, you can use a knife, but I'm using this soldering kit that's already hot to make holes on the styrofoam cup. So it's really, it goes fast because it's hot. You see, you've got holes. And this on the side, I also want to make holes like that so the roots can go through. You see how quickly that is. When you do this, and if you're doing a lot, please be aware of there's some, it does have some smell, so wear some protective gear. I'm not doing it right now because I'm only doing one just to show you how I do it, but typically if I have to do a lot of these, then I would wear a mask. Safety first. So that's hot. See how I have holes now, and the roots can get through it, and I'm just gonna have some more holes here for the roots to kind of look for air and look for the nutrients. All right, so I think that's good enough. Okay, so here we are. We're gonna cut a hole on this container with a hole saw so that we can put net cup inside and use this as a growing container. So let's see how this is done. You basically just really careful. Okay, so we've got a hole. The other material that you can also use is really an old ice box. And I know in the Philippines you can get styrofoam boxes from fruit vendors, because we don't have it here, so I'm trying to replicate what people do there. So this is actually an old ice box that I found on Facebook Market that was free. So I went there and drove 5 miles to pick it up so I could use it for this video. So it would be the same principle as just picking up those styrofoam boxes from the fruit vendors, but this is the lid, and I am going to make holes on this lid where the nut cups would go. And for this one, I'm going to use the 2-inch nut cups. I also have 2-inch nut cups. So same principle, just be really careful. I use this hole saw and the power drill to make holes. I feel like a pioneer woman doing this, but same thing. You would just drill a hole gently. So now with this old ice box, I can actually grow 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 plants. The other thing too that I like to do, because you'll notice that when you use the hole saw to make the hole, it's really rough, and you want to make the growing environment as optimal as possible for your plants. So I try to sand it a little bit, and I happen to have this mandrel, so I'm going to sand it just so that when I pull the plants out, the roots won't get stuck with these little rough edges. So just spend some time just really smoothing that out. Okay, so that's good enough. And it's funny because there's actually one video I watched where the speaker was saying, hey, hydroponic gardening is really glamorous. You can garden, it's not as messy. But look, I'm really messy. I've got all kinds of stuff all over me. So it's not about being glamorous to me. It's just the idea that I'm growing my own food, I'm being self-sufficient, and I don't care if there's a pandemic going on. I know that I can grow my own food. So it's not about being glamorous. So here we are. We've got the lid, we've got the container, and then I've got a 2-inch net pot that fits perfectly. See that? And I have something on my face from all that sanding, so I got to get rid of it. Okay. Sorry. Let's see. Now what we need to do is, let's do 2 things. One that's going to be using the styrofoam cup, and we're going to use this mason jar, and then we're also going to use this recycled container using the 2-inch net pot. But first, the thing that we need to remember when you are transplanting your seeds is you want to make sure that they are in the right stage of growth, because if you do it too early, you can damage the plant and its root system. And if you do it too late, like this one, it's not going to be optimal for them. I still feel that they'll be okay in the end. I'll just want to give them some TLC. But really, when you start your seeds, just make sure that you do it in a schedule that you know you can get to it. I really feel guilty that I didn't have time to transplant this. I'll pull something that I think is going to be too early. So like this one, this guy here, it's tiny. You can, I mean, I've done this in the past and they grew, but it's just really not the optimal time to transplant them. They're too tiny. See that? They're too tiny. Just 2 leaves. Whereas this one, you can really see the true leaves. And here's another one that I think is even more optimal. That one is really good, in a good stage for transplanting. These ones, there's like, you can almost harvest them now. They're so big. So don't do what I did, which was wait too long. Here's another example. This one, too small. You run the risk of it dying. And also the root system is not that great yet. But this one, good. See, you have good roots and you've got good leaves. And let me pull one more thing here. That may be a good example. By the way, the medium that I use to start these seeds are called growing mats, and they're used for microgreens. So that also works. So you can see really good roots, and they've got good leaves. So these are good timing for transplanting. So here's what we do. Let me put this aside, and I am going to first put the nutrient solution in this container. So let's put water in our container, and you want to put enough water to just touch the bottom of your net pot. There you go. So can you see it's just barely touching the bottom of the net pot. And the reason you're doing that is because when your plants are small, they don't have very long roots. You want the roots to touch the water. Okay, so the next step is for us to put the seedlings in the net pot, and we put the net pot on the solution. So the problem I have with this net pot, see how the holes are really big? And if you look at my cocoa coir, it's finer than the holes. So what's going to end up happening is that the cocoa coir is going to get through the hole and they're going to end up in the water. So there's two options that we have. I can either use a hydroton or the clay pebbles, or I also have this rough cocoa fibers that's not as fine as the coir. So I will put these at the bottom and also on the sides to act as a sort of like a filter, so that the cocoa coir won't get through. So I think in the Philippines we call this bunot. I'm not sure if I'm using the right word, but that's what it looks like. So now I have kind of like a filter. So now I can put these seeds here, because I would use hydroton, but I'm not sure how readily available that is in the Philippines. So now I have the plant carefully situated there. Sorry, I gotta adjust the video. Okay, so I have the plant carefully situated in the net pot, and so now I can put the cocoa coir around it to hold it up. I think I need more fiber, like that. There are other materials you can use to make it go easy, but they're not inexpensive. Like you can use rock wool. I don't like rock wool because number one, they're not cheap, and also even though they say it's recyclable, I just really don't feel good about throwing them in the, putting them in my compost pile. I've thrown some like a year ago and it still hasn't even degraded, so I don't really believe them when they say it's compostable or recyclable. So now I think that's it's good enough. Like we can see that the plant is upright. All right, so now let's put it in the solution here. Let me see if I can move that. And then what we need to do is let's just give it a little bit of water so that the roots will get some water. Okay, so here's the disadvantage you can see is like the cocoa coir is now going into the water, but that's fine. That's not going to hurt the plant. What's going to hurt the plant more is if we don't cover this container with tin foil, algae will grow and that algae will compete with the plant. So now what we'll do, so you can see what's happening here, that's water that has nutrients mixed into it. I am now going to cover it with tin foil, and we will check back in a few days to see how this plant is growing. So today we learned how to start our seeds using cocoa coir as a medium, using a recycled tinfoil takeout container, and we made sure that the seeds are covered so that they stay dark, and then we moistened it and covered it, and we're going to wait a couple of days to see how they're doing. But in the meantime, we also had some pre-baked or pre-germinated seeds that we transferred into a net pot. And for you, if you don't have a net pot, you can always just use styrofoam cups that has holes. And then we also learned how much water, how much nutrient level we need to put in the container so that the roots will be able to drink or eat the nutrients that's in the container, knowing that after a while the nutrient level will go down and will provide the air gap that would oxygenate the roots of the plants. So we will talk more in the next videos about nutrients and the whole science around hydroponic gardening, but I just wanted to use this opportunity to give you a high-level overview of what happens and around hydroponic gardening. I purposely wanted to start with Kratky because it's the easiest way or easiest method for hydroponic gardening. Later on, we can go really creative, you know, advanced and use pumps and nutrient film techniques, or recirculating water, or you know, aeroponics and things like that. But for me, it was really helpful to start with just the Kratky or passive hydroponic system. So for now, your assignment is start looking around for containers that would lend itself well for hydroponic gardening. Make sure that they are food safe. Don't use containers that have been used for chemicals that are harmful for human beings. There are chemicals that no matter how much you rinse and wash and sanitize it, the chemicals are still there. So be very, very careful on the type of containers that you're going to use for hydroponic gardening. Especially this is going to be food that for the most part you're going to eat raw, like my lettuce. I don't cook them, so it's not you're gonna be eating what the plants have eaten. So with that, I'm signing off, and I will see you again in the next video. Thank you very much.